When this chatter is talking about what's going on with the economy, what they're likely referring to is the fact that the S&P 500 was down a fairly, this is not Black Monday or anything, but it's been on a winning streak and it was down 3% today and the markets were a little jittery. Now, the economy, not the stock market, they're two very different things, but the economy might actually have a little bit of trouble because as of today, the trade war is back on. High gear, baby. I was getting bored. I was like, are we even gonna have a trade war with China or not? Is it just gonna be a boring 30% tariff? No, we're back in a major way. Donald Trump threatens extra 100% tariff as he retaliates against China. This is a 100% doubling of cost of all Chinese goods, and it applies as soon as November 1st or sooner, he said. Now, I'm being very real here. This news came in while we were recording the podcast earlier, and both Aiden and Doug started actually freaking out because Aiden has like 30,000 hoodies coming in from China that arrive after November 1st, and Doug has 12,000 Doug mugs arriving from China on like November 2nd, which means he might owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in tariffs at the port, which is fucking crazy and may not be possible to even sell his mugs. Like he can't double the price of all his mugs. So unless there's a taco here and soon, there's actually a real impact. If you're a buyer of either of those merch items, you could have real downstream effects. Now, the reason I bring this up and the reason this is interesting and the reason this is happening today, and it's a little bit different, and the reason why people think Trump might have some real teeth to this threat is because this is not like most things with Donald Trump and trade wars. This did not come from him. It didn't start with him. In fact, this is a retaliation against what China just did. So I'm going to pull that up. China has drastically expanded its rare earth mineral restrictions. I'm going to do a deeper dive on this later, probably on Wednesday on Lemonade Stand, but high level, what you need to know is that there are certain minerals that are extremely important for the creation of things like batteries, electric vehicles, microchips. A lot of high-tech stuff requires these rare earth minerals. Now, they're not actually that rare. They're almost everywhere, almost every country. Here's a little story you're going to see a lot. Every few months, every country has a news item that goes viral that's like, we just discovered a gigantic basin of thorium and it's gonna power the country for 100 years and like now we're totally independent. Everybody gets this news story. Every country thinks they found it and it's like, oh, well, things are good for us. We're pretty lucky. And it turns out that the hard part is not finding the mineral. Everyone has all these minerals everywhere. The real hard part is that you have to refine it, and you have to refine it at scale. So you need like a lot of factories to quickly refine it, put it into things and ship it out. Only China has that. China has like cornered the market on rare earth mineral refining. They have like 85, 90%. So pretty much all of these rare earth minerals flow through China. And during this trade war, this back and forth trade war, they have found out, like if there's one thing that America really has an advantage in that they can restrict, it's like access to high-end chips. Because so many of the pieces of the value chain, like ASML in the Netherlands and all these different places, they have to do what America says. And America has been going around the world and saying, you can't sell to China, you can't sell to China, you can't sell to China. That's the thing they restrict. China has figured out, and in fact, probably planned for this, that this is what they have the power and leverage in. When they restrict this, it's like, oh, fuck, we can't get it anywhere else. So they've started to use this tool more and more. Now, again, my theory on government restrictions that I've said on the US side and I'll say on this side is that the second you start using them, you are starting to lose them. Once you start squeezing the balls, then they have to figure out a new plan for their balls, okay? If they're a little crass, but they got to figure out how to get out of the vice. Once America started squeezing the NVIDIA chips, then China started making plans to get their own chips. And now as they do this, there's like a lot of things in motion in countries all over the world to try and get out of China's stranglehold here. But in the meantime, they do have a stranglehold. So Trump and Xi Jinping are gonna meet. They're supposed to meet like this week or next week. Let me see when it was. They're supposed to meet, but in fact, now, after this announcement by China that they're gonna block the rare earth minerals, Trump instead responded by ramping up the trade war and saying there's no reason to meet with Xi Jinping. So now it feels like the meeting's not going to happen. The trade war is in full speed and all our rare earth minerals are blocked while they're, unable to sell into America. So that's what's going on. That's why the markets are having a little bit of panic today, Even, Mr. Sunshine, Steve Eisman, on our last podcast was like, one thing that could happen is a reignition of the trade war, which would cause a lot of problems. That's what we're getting. So it's interesting. It's very interesting to see. Bitcoin had a flash crash. Dude, I don't trust Bitcoin's prices, bro. But I also, whatever. But again, let's not overstate what's going on here. Up, down, up. It's where it was in September. The problem with Bitcoin, in my estimation, is not that, there's a lot of problems actually, but the problem that I think more serious is not anything about what it's doing in the short term. It's that this chart is basically the NASDAQ, okay? And so if this goes down, you're not hiding it for safety in Bitcoin. You're just tracking the same thing. And so if you're going to do this, you might as well just buy tech stocks. What's the fucking difference? It's not like it just tracks 1-to-1. So gold actually behaves differently. So at the very least, you could make the case. All my money's in dollars, which I even put it in. You're a first-time chatter. I wouldn't normally answer this question, but you're a first-time chatter. Now, I can never tell you what to put your money in. Of course not. I'm not a financial advisor. If I were to do that and it were to do well, you wouldn't care about the fact that I gave it to you. And if it were to do poorly, you'd be super pissed at me. But what I would say is that holding all your money in dollars is risky in and of itself. If you have absolutely no idea what to put it in, you could at least put it in 6-month treasuries and punt. You could buy treasuries, 6-month ones. You'll get your money back with interest in 6 months. Rock solid. That's the very least. If you're in actual cash, you're like losing your money every day because of inflation. It's a little bit at a time. One of the best ways you can put it is in Atrioc subs. So if you have a lot of cash, what you should do is put that in a bank, get it digitized, and then buy hundreds and hundreds of subs. And that's what that's an asset that holds value, because the goodwill you get from gifting subs is like a high reputation bar. If I'm in debt and the dollar goes down, do I owe less? Yes. That is your thoughts are correct. That is a way to look at it. That is true. Hard to plan for, but yes, if you are in debt and the currency gets weaker, then you technically owe less. It's like, here's an example. In Weimar, Germany, there's a great book called How Money Dies about the hyperinflation in Weimar, Germany. At the height of hyperinflation, when you had this many bills to buy your groceries, when shit was bad, the people that saw this coming and right before this took out massive loans before the currency was devalued, when it was just kind of bad. They took out massive loans and they bought land and assets and real physical things and maybe gold. They bought real physical assets with the loans, and then the currency went to shit and their loans were worthless. Their loans were, you could pay it back with a penny, and it drastically changed hands, the amount of wealth in Germany because of hyperinflation. People were pretty pissed about it. It just took all the assets and gave them to people who are willing to take crazy risks with debt, which is not a good thing. Probably why they elected Hitler later on. But yeah, it was people who abused debt were able to take advantage of that situation. Did that not work out? Well, in a way. I always say this. It's a free money glitch. In Venezuela, my mom bought a car right before hyperinflation hit and we paid nothing for it. And then we lived through a famine, but tomato. Hey, brother, better than buying the car afterwards. It's way too expensive. Free car. We did the same thing in Turkey. Yeah, that's what happens in hyperinflation is your debts go to zero. The reason it exists is because the government debt is so bad. They have to print to keep things going, and it creates hyperinflation, which makes their debt go to zero. The government's problems are the same as yours, so just make your problems as the same as theirs. That's the idea. If they can't afford the debt they have to print, then you should just get the same amount. Well, this is not financial advice. America's in a much different spot than late stage Turkey or Venezuela, but why does printing money cost? I feel like I've answered this question a million times, but I'll do it one more time for you. I'll do it one more time, just for the old time's sake, right? We got people in a little town, and there's, I don't know. Let's just do apples. We'll do the apples, all right? There's 3 apples. Apple, apple, apple. I'll do 5. There's 5 apples. There's 5 apples. There's $10 in the economy. Each apple costs $2, okay? and people are trading them around based on the money they have, okay? If this guy secretly has a money printer and prints the money without telling anybody, these guys don't know about it, but now there's an extra 10 bucks. He can start buying up all the apples, okay? Overall, there'll be 20 bucks in the economy. There's more dollars chasing the same amount of goods. So the price inevitably will rise to, once the money gets out and it's flowing around, it'll raise to $4 an apple. That's just what will happen. Okay, now he'll have a massive advantage at first. If he doesn't tell anybody, he'll be able to buy all this stuff for cheap first, but that's true. It won't immediately rise. But once the money's out there and flowing around, the prices will rise to match. That's like, hopefully, maybe that was too complicated, but the general idea is whether you tell someone or not, it's just the amount of money chasing the amount of goods has not gone up. There's the same number of apples, but there's more money. The money is just a measurement of the value of the apple. So this will go up to match that. And by the way, to do a little more advanced economic stuff, the guy with the printer here, Uncle Sam, or his friend, or someone that knows him, or a government contractor, whoever gets access to the first wave of printed money before the price has gone up, gets a huge advantage. They get to buy real estate and apples and land before things have inflated. Even though there's more money in the economy now from this printed money, they get to buy it first. And that's called the Cantillon effect. Cantillon effect. And it's what's ruining most major societies, okay? The people that are closest to the printer are getting massive advantages for connections to government, and they're buying things, and then the rest of us are dealing with the inflation.